All right, welcome back to Using My Story. I got my good friend Matt here with me. And Matt, you work in the recovery community. You've got a lot of years clean and sober. And I'm really excited to have you on because I know your story is going to help a lot of people. But Matt, can you share your name real quick and talk about how long you've been sober?
Matt Junker. I've been sober since March 13th of 93 for about 29 years.
Nice. And tell us a little bit about your drug of choice and when was the first time that you used?
My drug of choice was really whatever anybody had. But I did like smoking a lot of pot and drinking and doing a little bit of speed and maybe some acid. So there was really no single choice. It was really whatever I could get my hands on.
Nice.
First time was about 12 and a half, drank. That was the first time I consciously made a decision to take a drink. Other than that, it was like family parties and whatnot, smoke a little bit here or there, but that wasn't the same as I'm going to get totally wasted.
For sure. So right off the bat, I think what I want to focus on is the weed, because, bro, nobody thinks weed is a drug, especially in 2022. People could go to the liquor store down the street. I haven't even seen a sack anymore. They just got it's packaged up and everything. So, but a lot of people, so here's what I've been seeing, because I've been connecting with a lot of people on this topic. A lot of people are saying weed's not a drug, this and this and that. For me, weed was the first drug I used, and when I ran out, that's when I started using meth. But some people now are saying, no, I didn't think weed was a drug, and now when I stopped using weed, because it's a different kind of weed now. There's chemicals in it. People are going through bad withdrawal symptoms, throwing up, getting sick, mood swings, depression, schizophrenia, paranoia, suicide. So break that down real quick.
We had all those same effects back 30 years ago.
I know.
It just wasn't the same, right? We hid it behind alcohol and other drugs. But for me, I guess I'd have to talk about what smoking pot or weed did for me in order to identify why it would be a drug to me, right? So for somebody who is super hyperactive, super ADHD, all these other terms, whatever you want to call it, when I smoked weed, it would slow me down to the point where I felt like I was with the normal people, where it stopped my head from thinking. It would, and it's the same thing a drink did, but it was more of like, I would take a deep breath and then I could live in the world.
Yeah.
Or the problem for me is I would smoke so much weed, I'd lose the power of speech and I'd just stare at the wall.
Yeah.
Because my whole purpose for getting loaded at any point was to shut my head off, to shut off any emotions I might be feeling or any thoughts I might be having. And the whole goal was to calm me down or bring me down or to stop all of that overwhelming feelings that I couldn't control. And so if you identify with that, if you identify that getting loaded or drinking was what would bring me to a point of stability at one point, and that was in the beginning, that's what it did. Can't say that that's what it did at the end, but that's what the ultimate goal was. If that was the effect in the beginning, that was the effect I was seeking every time I got loaded, right? And so for me, that's using at an addictive level, right? And if I need to smoke a joint every night to bring myself down so I could go to sleep, then that might be a kind of an addiction, because if I can't go to sleep or calm myself down at the middle of the night to go to bed and I need to get something external to do it, you might have a problem.
You're addicted.
I can't say who's addicted or not, but yeah, I mean, your body is addicted to a substance
without it.
Exactly.
That's huge. So how old were you when you first smoked weed?
About 13. 12 to 13 is the first time I got high. And again, that was, I mean, it was like a dream.
What did it feel like?
It's like I could take a deep breath and live in the world. up until that point, I felt like I was just managing and surviving.
Even at 12?
Even at 12, I was coming from a split home, coming from an alcoholic family, you know, the standard stuff that happens in alcoholic families, right? And so you have all these anxieties and emotions and feelings, and then when you smoke weed, it was like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm good. I don't care anymore. And if I can flip the switch, that don't care switch, if I can hit something that says, you know what, I don't care. I don't care what you got going on. I don't care if my parents are fighting. I don't care what's going on at school. I'm good. I just don't care. And that allowed me to just be able to be like, okay, whatever, man. Say what you want, do what you want. It's not a big deal. And so, I don't know how weed affects other people. I know how it affects me, though.
Exactly.
Right? And if they had weed, and they have weed today that does all sorts of things, I'm like, oh man, that would be amazing. Right?
Good thing it wasn't around.
Oh my gosh. I mean, so I think about that, and I'm like, I could smoke a little weed. That would be amazing. I'd be smoking it right now.
Yeah, they have.
So they vape pens, all sorts.
In the restaurant, at Disneyland, at Knott's Berry Farm.
Hey man, you could do the same thing with alcohol. Yeah. It's everywhere.
100%.
So I mean, the argument that it's legal and you can get it anywhere doesn't hold water to me, because the same thing goes for alcohol. Yep. It's legal and you can get it anywhere. So what's the difference? For me, it's still a substance that affects me in an amazing way. The problem for me is, at some point, I can't stop.
Yep.
When I truly want to, I can't stop. And then it starts affecting me in other ways. And then in the degradation and the humiliation and all of those other things that come along with getting loaded and drinking. At some point, one's not enough. At some point, just smoking weed is not enough. Then I need more alcohol. And then I get tired, so then I need to do a little speed. And then I need more weed. And so then at some point, it just becomes this vicious cycle. And then it turns into, whenever I'm sober, I wish I was loaded. And every time I was loaded, I wish I was sober. And you can't get off that merry-go-round. And so what are you going to do?
How old were you when you got clean?
18.
Oh, so you got clean young.
So I was really drinking and using for about 5 years.
From 13 to 18.
Yeah.
Wow. So you got clean super young.
So I never had a legal drink. Never had smoke weed legally, which is ironic to me.
Yeah.
I'm like smoking weed legally, but yeah, never
what
did.
What made you want to get clean? Like, did you hit a rock bottom, or did you just say, like, you know what, I'm not getting anywhere with this?
So so really what happened was I started selling weed and other substances, and I was in this was in an Alateen meeting, which is like there's Al-Anon and Alateen. And I was in this meeting, and this kid, she was 14, and she wanted to get loaded, and nobody would sell her any dope. And so I know what that feels like, and so I did. And the next day, she committed suicide.
Wow. Loaded.
And there's a lot of guilt and shame that comes with that, where you're like, I helped allow that to happen. And I learned a long time ago that wasn't my fault or anything like that. But when you're 18, you take a lot of that on as like, fuck, that was me. And when you walk into a meeting and everybody looks at you like that was you. And it was the next 6 months of getting loaded as hard as I could to try to shut that off. And it didn't work. And eventually I ended up at a place where I couldn't go on living that lie of like, I can't stop. And a guy reached out to me and offered me some help. And but that was really the turning point. It was like, this kid just died.
Well, what substance was it?
It was weed and speed.
Wow.
14.
She was 14?
Yeah, 14 or 16. She was a kid.
She was young.
She was young. And I think she might have been 16. But young enough that, 30 years later, it's like she had her whole life ahead of her.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big deal.
For sure. For sure.
And if my only answer was to get loaded to try to shut those feelings down and it didn't work, well, what are you going to do? If my only answer doesn't work anymore, right? I couldn't do enough to shut that guilt off, to shut the shame away. And knowing that people were sober in AA and other treatment, you're like, okay, what do I got to do?
That's good. That's a good point, because a lot of people, like, there's a lot of people that are going to watch this that are in that stage right now. They think they're going to, and it's working, because it works for a little while, but there's some people that are in the middle of it right now and it's not working, and it's only going to get, and now you've got fentanyl, you've got pressed pills and things that people are going to take and die.
Well, the problem today is you don't even know what you're taking.
You don't know. So talk a little bit about trying to hide all that and push all that down, and, you know, encourage somebody who might be down that road right now.
The problem is we can talk about it all day, but until they reach the point where they are out of answers, there's nothing we can say. I can say, look, if I understand what it feels like to try to shut everything off and not work. I understand what it feels like to continually try to mix things up in order to get a different effect, and then get to a point where I can't stop doing it. Like, even though I know it's not working, I can't stop taking it in. That's the breaking point. That's the turning point, or the jumping off place, right? Where you're like, when I want to honestly stop and I can't, and I have no other answer to. For so long, this was my solution, and now it's my problem. Getting to the point of understanding that that's the reality is hard, right?
Yeah. That's what it takes. Because a lot of people say, they get stuck in their mind and they say, I was thinking about it and I don't think I'm going to do that no more. And I say, bro, that's your worst problem. Your mind is all jacked up. Don't do what you're thinking about. Do what they say. But that requires humility, trust, getting vulnerable. And a lot of people don't want to do that. But when you do that,
it works.
You're going to get the results.
It works. And I don't know, there's no magic pill or there's no magic thing that says this guy can do it and this one can't.
Yeah.
It's just, you either do or you don't.
Yep.
And I talk to people all the time, and I mean, I work with a lot of folks, and a lot of times it's a matter of, you know, look, when you know, you know.
Yeah.
When you know you're an alcoholic or an addict, you know you're an alcoholic and an addict. There is no denying it to yourself or anybody else. And when you know, and when you're at that point where you are, and it's basically step one, when you are powerless over drugs and alcohol and your life is unmanageable, there is no denying it. And to anybody, you can deny it to yourself, but then at some point you're like, you know what? Yeah, that's me.
Exactly.
And then if you can hang on to that and say, whatever you guys tell me, and there's a difference between belief, faith, and knowing, right? People talk about faith, belief, and knowing, and when you come to a program or some treatment or whatever, you have faith that it's going to work. Mm-hmm. And when you see it working for a period of time, then you believe it's going to work.
Yep. And
then when it works, you know without a shadow of a doubt that it works.
I love that.
And so when you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's no denying it. And then you're making conscious choices to either do it or don't do it. Mm-hmm. And once you're clean, you're clean. Mm-hmm. And you know. And so if you decide to do something else, it's on you. I mean, and there has been plenty of times in my sobriety where I've had to look in the mirror and be like, if I make this choice, it's on me. Mm-hmm. It's not because of anybody else. It's not because I didn't do, it's because I consciously decided to do something contrary to what I've been shown. And fortunately, I've always been able to turn the right direction and continue the path. And as long as I keep my primary purpose is to help another person, another alcoholic, get sober and stay sober. If that is my sole purpose, if that's the only reason that the Creator got me sober, so that I can help somebody else, then I'm good.
That's more than enough. I know there's going to be a lot of people. We're about to wrap it up, but there's going to be a lot of people that watch this, and if you're sober, if you're struggling, if you're addicted, if you're struggling even with mental health issues, I always say there's no harm in reaching out. There's no harm in asking. There's no harm in figuring out solutions together. If like, comment, subscribe, share this video. If you have questions for Matt, put it in the comments.
Yeah.
We'll let Matt know, and let's just keep helping more people, man.